Aileen Wuornos is often remembered as America's first female serial killer. Her story, tragic from the very start, is one of a turbulent life marked by hardship, violence, and ultimately, a descent into darkness. Today, we delve into the life of Aileen Wuornos, her troubled beginnings, her transformation into a killer, and the grim end that followed. Aileen Carol Wuornos was born on February 29, 1956, in Rochester, Michigan. Her childhood was far from ordinary and paved the way for what would become a tragic life. Her father was a convicted child molester who abandoned the family before she was born, and her mother, unable to care for her, also left soon after. Aileen and her brother were raised by their grandparents, but even here, her life was filled with instability and abuse. At just 11 years old, Aileen began engaging in sexual acts in exchange for money, food, or cigarettes. She would later say that her grandfather was abusive and that she grew up feeling unloved and unwanted. By her teenage years, she was struggling with homelessness, surviving on her own through means that would follow her into adulthood. As a young adult, Aileen moved to Florida, where she engaged in sex work to make a living. Along the way, she faced numerous arrests for petty crimes, everything from disorderly conduct to theft. But Aileen wanted a better life. In 1986, she met Tyria Moore, a hotel maid, and the two quickly developed an intense romantic relationship. For Aileen, this relationship seemed like a beacon of hope, a chance at real companionship. But financial hardship was never far behind, and the pair struggled to make ends meet. Desperation and anger began to cloud Aileen's judgment, leading her down a dangerous path. Between late 1989 and 1990, Aileen Wuornos committed a series of murders that would make her one of the most notorious female killers in US history. Her first known victim was Richard Mallory, a 51-year-old electronics shop owner whom she shot multiple times. Wuornos claimed that Mallory had tried to assault her and that she killed him in self-defense, a defense she would repeat for most of her victims. In total, Aileen murdered 7 men, each found shot at close range, their bodies abandoned along Florida highways. She would later say that each killing was an act of self-defense, a response to being threatened or attacked by these men. However, evidence suggested that many of the killings were motivated by robbery and desperation rather than self-defense. Aileen's crime spree came to an end in January 1991, when police arrested her at a bar in Volusia County. The key to her capture was her girlfriend, Tyria Moore, who agreed to cooperate with the police. Tyria, under police direction, called Aileen and convinced her to confess to the murders over the phone. In a series of recorded conversations, Aileen admitted to the killings, sealing her fate. Aileen Wuornos went to trial for the murder of Richard Mallory in January 1992. The prosecution painted a picture of a calculated killer, describing how she lured men to their deaths. Despite her claims of self-defense, the court found her guilty of murder and sentenced her to death. Aileen would eventually be convicted of 6 of the 7 murders, with each conviction further solidifying her sentence. Throughout her trials, Aileen's behavior became more erratic, and she frequently lashed out at the court, the police, and even her own attorneys. Her deteriorating mental state became apparent, but it did little to change the outcome. After spending over a decade on death row, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection on October 9, 2002. In her final days, she remained defiant, expressing anger at the system and claiming that her death was a form of revenge by the state. Her last words were as enigmatic as the life she led. "I'll be back, like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6th, like the movie, Big Mother Ship and all, I'll be back." Aileen Wuornos became a dark legend. Her life and crimes a chilling reminder of how a tragic beginning can sometimes lead to an even darker end. Aileen Wuornos' story is complex, tragic, and disturbing. Her journey from a neglected child to a notorious serial killer reveals the haunting intersections of trauma, desperation, and violence. But the question remains, was she a victim of her circumstances or a true predator? We leave that for you to decide.